Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Well, yesterday I was at a local music festival and it was very nice. And today I'd like to use some words to describe it for you, some words and phrases, okay? So I'm not just going to say the music festival was good. The music festival was great. It had this person, that person, and another person. You could describe things that way, but you wouldn't be using the best of your English. So you want to really relive the experience by talking about walking in and what you saw, what your perception was, okay? So I'm going to do that now, just so you can hear how to describe it, okay? So, the music festival I was at last night was really very, very interesting. I walked in with a member of the family, and when I got there, the first thing that was very striking was the smell, because it was in a building which was our new town hall. It's recently been renovated, and when buildings have been renovated, they have that kind of a smell of plastic, of carpets which have just been laid, you know? It's a smell I always associate with school. When you walk into a school, there's always a strong smell of PVC. It's some kind of rubber or plastic on the floor. So when I walked in, that's what it reminded me of. There was this strong smell of newness, something new. The first thing I noticed as I walked in is that there was a huge queue. I initially thought that this queue, which was as long as your arm, that simply means a very long queue. Oh, there was a queue as long as your arm. It means it was very long. So I thought, oh, I'll have to wait in this queue because there's a lot of people standing. But I quickly realized that that queue was for the bar, not for the box office. So I quickly left that queue, went to the box office, and I asked the man, "Where's my seats?" And it seems to me that these days in the UK, I'm not sure if it's because I'm older or because the people are younger that I'm talking to, they kind of panicked. Don't you want to go to the bar? And I said, no, I don't. And I just want my seats, thank you. And they didn't really know how to react to that. So very quickly, they took me to a door and I went through it and they showed me where the seats were. Now, there was a huge stage which was black, and I remember the lighting. It was like there was a big super trooper on the ceiling. Now, I'm not sure if you all know what a super trooper is, but in a theater, there's always one big light which shines down on the performer. That big light is always called Super Trooper. You might remember the ABBA song, Super Trooper, maybe not. Anyway, it was beautiful, and that was shining down, waiting for someone to step into it. It added to the excitement and glamour of the evening. Perhaps the most exciting bit for me was hearing things in Gaelic. We have a Gaelic TV channel now. I rarely watch it, but to see Gaelic becoming a mainstream language again is something which I think all people in the North feel very contented about because it's the language of our ancestors. There's something quite calming and beautiful about its sound. You could say it's in our DNA, maybe. To sum up a little bit, the one thing that I was uncomfortable about during this festival was the number of drunk people. I mean, this was an arts festival. It was celebrating something beautiful, which maybe compared to a rock festival, you would expect more dignified, older people there. And it's true that the audience was over 60 compared to what it might have been at a rock festival. But still, they were all very quickly getting very, very drunk. And this new venue, the town hall, which has just been renovated, as I've quickly noticed, now has 2 or 3 bars in it, which is very different from the old days when these venues were not allowed to be licensed except under specific circumstances. So I was very sad to see older people brushing against me or shouldering me out of the way, because a few of them were beginning to fall over, have accidents, especially in their haste to get a drink. So that kind of spoiled it for me. So just to conclude, it was a very good night, but compared to other more sober events that I've attended, I don't like this automatic idea that music festivals should include alcohol. The night was good. I really loved it. But if I did have any criticism, it would definitely be about the alcohol. Now, you can hear there that the way I've described this wasn't by simply remembering. Okay, so I didn't just say, "Oh, I remember last night there was a light on the ceiling. There were people serving me." I was reliving the experience as I walked in, what I saw. So effectively, I changed the present tense to the past tense to relive the experience. And you really have to get into this when you're describing, because it will allow you to use your vocabulary. It will allow you to use more grammar, and using things like comparatives, well, compared to a rock festival, it will serve you much better. Okay? Now, it's very important to make comparatives when you're giving these kind of answers, because it will make your English sound better. For example, if you're describing a room and you see something, let's say a radiator, rather than just saying there's a heater or a radiator in the room, you could say things like, "I noticed there was a radiator there," which might imply that there was either going to be older people or that the place was generally very cool. It also reminds us that the festival was taking place in a northern country, because in contrast to a country like Spain, a country like the UK often has cold nights. So you see, you can easily pull out some different comparatives that you need to use. You could go into much more detail if you wanted to make it funny. Let's say if you were writing a book, or if you wanted to add a quirk in there. Remember, to quirk we use in reported speech is when you're quite sarcastic. For example, I could say the presenter at the music festival. By the way, she had 2 kids talking on the stage. Another reason why I think alcohol wasn't altogether suitable, because it's giving completely the wrong message. But anyway, I could say something like, the presenter had more calves than a British race course or a British car racing course, and she looked like she was twice as dangerous. Okay, so by referring to her shape, I'm saying that she's twice as dangerous as a car racing course where you might find someone like Lewis Hamilton driving. So you can go anywhere you want with this. Obviously, the idea is that in an exam, you have no choice except to show them the best of what you can do. But you really need to be bringing in things like proverbs. The thing I used mainly there was comparatives. I think I made a reference to the spotlight as well, the super trooper. But you can also use proverbs by saying something like, it is said that. So in this case, it is said that the super trooper is the brightest light on the stage. Okay, we say it is said because there's no one there to prove it or to tell us that we're wrong. Also important, I think, in my opinion, to use these things are very, very important. You also could go into more detail about how you're sitting or even the chair that you're sitting on. For example, the town hall, as I recall, used to have simple plastic chairs, but now that they've converted it into an entertainment venue, the chairs are marginally more comfortable. This particular set of chairs, which are installed in this town hall, are rather unforgiving. And they're unforgiving because you can't move them. So you're kind of stuck, and they're joined to the one next to you. So I had a feeling I was almost sitting on top of the person to my left. Unfortunately, to my right was on the aisle, meaning the corridor between the seats. So I was able to have a bit more leg room there. That red chair reminded me of my trip to the psychiatrist last week. It's so hard to dress for a psychiatrist. You know, you wear black, they think you're depressed. You wear red, they think you're angry. And if you wear too much aftershave or perfume, then they think that you're trying to sleep with somebody. So, yes, you see how using comparatives, and I admit that my comparatives are perhaps a little bit more advanced, but you can see how you can really capture an audience or a room by using these longer narratives. Let's just go over some vocabulary now that you could use if you're visiting a concert hall or a place which is hosting a concert. Okay, so in a traditional concert hall in the UK, you have the area called the stalls. Stalls. Now that's where I was sitting. Okay, those are the seats on the ground floor level in front of the stage. Okay, they're usually directly in front of the stage or a little bit diagonal at the side of the stage facing them. Okay, so that's the stalls. And when you go to buy a ticket, they'll ask you, do you want the stalls? Do you want the balcony, etc.? Okay, so the stalls is the ground. All right. And then you have the dress circle, which is the first balcony, offering some of the best views. And those aren't individual balconies where you can heckle, you know, you can boo, like those two guys in the Muppet Show. It's usually one big balcony which goes around the whole theatre. And you have to be careful with those because some of our theatres are so old that when you're entering, if you trip, you easily could find yourself falling over into the stage. So you need to be very careful when you're moving around because Most of our places are Victorian. The upper circle is the second balcony, the one which is a bit higher, okay? And the legroom is often cramped up there. And the small balcony where you can shout down and heckle, the private balcony, that would be called a box, okay? And you need to be careful with that because it might not be higher than the ground level. You could have one on the ground, which is a private box, or you could have one further up, which is like a private balcony. Yeah, the matinee is an afternoon performance. Okay, the usher is the person who takes you to the seats. What else can I tell you? Of course, the bar. Yes, well, you know that one. And the other name is the main auditorium. The main auditorium. That's quite a big place. The main auditorium. So that's the main area for seating. It describes the inside of the room, basically, the inside of the building, the main auditorium. Okay, so I hope you found this helpful. Yeah, so if you are describing things, just to sum up, okay, go through the experience of something. No matter what you're asked to describe, put yourself in that place. Talk about an experience you had in it in the past, or create something, or imagine what it would be like if you were there. Don't just decide to describe the place because it's not going to let you use so much vocabulary. If you do decide just to describe the place, create stories from it, make assumptions, what something might be trying to tell you. For example, in my case, if I say I can see a floor cleaner in the auditorium, it might suggest that I've arrived too early, or it might suggest that it's a place which is kept very clean, perhaps for some dignitaries arriving. But don't just say there's a floor cleaner, okay? You have to go into a bit more detail, be a bit more imaginative. Well, that's it from me. I hope you found this helpful. Let's talk again soon, and I wish you all a wonderful day. Bye.